There's a lot of buzz surrounding this Texas football team coming out of the spring, but there are a few players who aren't getting the love they deserve. We've got a few under the radar Longhorns to talk about on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin native, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell your Longhorn friends about Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Hope everyone had a great weekend. A happy belated Mother's Day to all of you moms out there. Hopefully you at least called your mom yesterday. And hey, you can call her today too. It doesn't have to just be one day out of the year where you show your mom that you love her. All right, we'll get into some Texas baseball here in a few. But first, some Longhorn football players who have been flying under the radar a bit. Three guys that I don't think are being talked about enough, who I think are going to have great 2025 seasons. I'm not talking about walk-ons. I'm not talking about some guy who's third or fourth on the depth chart. I'm not talking about somebody who might be really good in 2026 or 2027. No, I'm talking about three guys who I expect to be key contributors this year that did not get enough love during the spring, and I don't think they're getting enough love amongst Longhorn fans right now early in the summer. And we're going to start with the wide receiver. We're going to start with DeAndre Moore Jr. Feels like most of the buzz surrounding the Texas wide receiver room is about the guys who just left, right? Matthew Golden, first-round pick to the Green Bay Packers. He had that awesome moment on draft night. Of course, the draft was in Green Bay this year. Golden gets drafted by the hometown team. That was one of the biggest storylines from the NFL draft, and obviously Texas fans have been talking about it too, and they've been bragging about it because, well, it's another first-round pick out of this school. Isaiah Bond's been talked about a lot. We know he's gone. He's made the news a lot lately, not always for the right reasons. Silas Bolden is gone too. Just feels like those guys have kind of dominated the headlines for wide receivers at Texas. And then when it comes to the current team, it still feels like there's not a lot of DeAndre Moore chatter. It's Ryan Wingo, the five-star, going into year two. What is he going to do for an encore after a tremendous freshman season? It's Emmanuel Mosley, the fifth, the transfer from Stanford. What type of impact is he going to make in his first year in Austin? It's the four top 100 wide receivers that Steve Sarkisian and company just brought in this number one recruiting class in the country. It almost feels like DeAndre Moore is a little bit of an afterthought right now, even though he's Texas's leading returning wide receiver. 39 catches, 456 yards, 7 touchdowns in 2024. Now, look, I think part of this is pretty explainable. I think part of the reason why people aren't talking about Moore that much is the fact that he wasn't a heavy participant in spring ball, dealt with a toe injury that he suffered late last season. I think it hampered him down the stretch last year. I think his numbers could have been even better if he wasn't dealing with that issue. But obviously, it nagged to the spring as well. So that feels like a big reason why people haven't been talking about DeAndre Moore. But I'm just telling y'all, do not sleep on this guy. In Arch Manning's only SEC start in 2024 that went over Mississippi State, DeAndre Moore had 4 catches for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. So clearly there was some chemistry there. And again, that was without Arch Manning getting a bunch of reps with the ones. That was with Arch, coming in as a backup, having to start that game for Texas. There's already some rapport between those two. I expect that rapport to increase even more in 2025. And oh, by the way, on top of all of that, DeAndre Moore is draft eligible after this season. If he goes out and has a great year with Arch, he's got a chance to be the next Longhorn wide receiver drafted in the first round. He could make it 3 years in a row where a Texas receiver goes on night one of the NFL draft. I just saw this morning, Todd McShay dropped the new 2026 mock draft that has Moore going 30th overall, I think, to Buffalo. So it's not that far-fetched to think that with a great year, DeAndre Moore, who wasn't really talked about that much coming out of high school. He was in the same class as Jonte Cook. Cook was the 5-star. He was the guy everybody was talking about having a breakout season this past year. Moore ended up being that guy for Texas. Going into his third year, I think he's going to put up some monster numbers in this Texas offense with Arch Manning slinging the rock. I expect DeAndre Moore to have a fantastic 2025 campaign. All right, moving over to the defensive side of the ball. What about a linebacker, Leonga Lafau? Texas might have the best linebacking duo in the nation. Everybody talks about Anthony Hill, and rightfully so. He's a monster. He's one of the best players in the sport. I think, is going to be a preseason All-American. I think he's going to be preseason first-team All-SEC. I think there's a damn good chance he's a postseason All-American and All-SEC player as well. So this is not to take any shots at Anthony Hill. I think my feelings on him are well documented on this channel. But do not sleep on Leonga Lafau. 63 tackles, 5 TFLs, 2 sacks, and an interception this past season. He didn't start the year as a starter in 2024, but he took David Benda's job. David Benda was a 6-year player, a guy who had done a lot for Texas, a guy who had started in previous years at Texas. Leonga Lafau was so good that he forced his way on the field. Now, Benda still played and contributed, but Lafau ended up being the starter as the year progressed. And Lafau ended up grading out as the Horns' second highest graded linebacker, ahead of David Benda and Mo Blackwell, guys with way more experience. Lafau is the top coverage linebacker on the team. He's a bit undersized, only 220, 225 pounds. We'll see what he weighs in at this year. But that, him being a little smaller gives him a little more speed and agility to go sideline to sideline and make those plays in coverage. And he can also play downhill as well. I thought he got so much better as the year progressed. Early on, I'll be honest, I was like, man, I don't know if I'd make this move. I feel like Benda still deserves more snaps. I know what I'm getting from him. I'm not quite sure what Lafau is just yet. But as the season went along, Lafau got better and better. And I think what really impressed me the most towards the end of the season, his anticipation just got so much better. Like, he knew where he was supposed to be. He wasn't reacting. Early on, it felt like he might have been reacting to what was happening. No, he was like predicting what was going to happen. So he became right place, right time guy as the year progressed. And again, only reason to think that that is going to get better the more practice reps he gets, and obviously the more game day reps he gets as well. I think Anthony Hill's game got better last season, in part because Leonga Lafau was able to do what he did as a coverage guy. And again, I think Hill's going to be a stud, but don't sleep on Leonga Lafau. He's not going to get the type of love and pub that Hill gets. That's fine. But this is a damn good football player who's going to be instrumental to Texas hopefully having one of the best defenses in college football once again. And last but not least, our third Longhorn that I don't think is getting enough love, another guy who didn't participate in the spring, Derek Williams Jr. You understand why he's not being mentioned a ton, right? A bunch of guys did go through spring ball. We're getting all of these insider reports about who stood out and, which young guys are making things happen and which veteran got this, that, and the other. Derek Williams didn't play, so you didn't hear a lot about him. But this guy was so good early last year before tearing up his knee in the Red River win over Oklahoma. Remember Texas's 31-12 beatdown at Michigan? Derek Williams had 5 tackles and an interception in that game. The OU beatdown. Before he got hurt, Williams had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery and also 4 tackles in that game. So to that point, those were the 2 biggest games of the year for the Longhorns. And Derek Williams put up ridiculous stat lines. He was all over the field. I mean, his presence was known in those 2 huge matchups. Again, on the road in the Big House and then in Red River against the hated Oklahoma Sooners. This guy is a playmaker, and it feels like he makes his biggest plays in the biggest moments. 6'2", 192, great size for a defensive back, former top 50 recruit in the country, a high 4-star kid, so the potential has always been there, and he's just a super versatile piece. I think the expectation for Derek Williams going into year 3 is for him to be the starter at nickel. Right, Jalen Gilbo is moving to the outside, kind of doing what Jahdae Barron did last year, going from the star position to outside corner. Gilbo is going to try that this year, opening up a spot at star. And I think Derek Williams is going to slide down from safety. And at least that's what we've been hearing behind the scenes. So he's probably your starter there, but we've seen him play at safety. That's where he's taken most of his snaps in his first couple of seasons on the 40 acres. He could play well there. He could play man. He could play zone. And he's willing to lower the boom, too. He's a big hitter, and he's also willing to play downhill and get up in the box and make some stuff happen against the run. I think he was Texas's 5th highest graded run defender last year. That's not like fifth amongst safeties or defensive backs. No, that's on the entire team. Before going down with that injury, Derek Williams graded out as a really, really good run stopper. And to do that at safety, that's hard to do because you're the furthest away from the running back when he gets the ball. So this guy is the total package. Again, he's got that versatility, not quite Jahdae Barron level versatility, but I think Derek Williams is probably your starter at star. I think he's a guy who could play safety for you in a pinch if you need him. He might be able to play some outside corner as well. This dude is a jack of all trades. And it's a big if, because he's coming off of a pretty serious knee surgery. And again, suffered the injury in October, didn't participate in spring ball. So he's still rehabbing and trying to get back to the guy he was. But if he can get back to the guy that he was, boy, what a weapon that would be for this Longhorn defense that is already loaded with talent, especially in the back end. Derek Williams gets back to what he was, and hell, maybe he takes another step considering he's another year older and another year more experienced in this defense. And watch out. I think he's got a chance to be an all SEC type of player here in 2025. So there you go. 3 under the radar Longhorns who should be getting more love because I think they are going to be huge pieces for Texas football when we get to the regular season. I want to hear from y'all. Who did I miss? Who else is flying under the radar? Who else do you think could be a breakout star for Texas in 2025? If you're tuned in on YouTube, comment below with your thoughts. Always enjoy the back and forth conversation. All right, well, that was fun. Here's something not as fun. Texas baseball lost its second straight conference series over the weekend. Is it time to press the panic button for Jim Schlossnagel's crew? We will talk about it, and we will lay out the Horns' path to an SEC title. Yes, it still exists. We'll tell you how they do it coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out and game tickets and online shopping and entertainment, it is easy to lose track of your spending. And man, the summer is right around the corner. So much to do in the state of Texas. You'll be spending a little bit of money. It can be tough to lose track of your spending and of your finances. That's where our friends at Monarch Money come in. They are your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. This is not an ordinary budgeting app. I know there's 500 of those out there. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center. So you can track all of your accounts, your investments, your spending all in one place. So you can stop just managing your money, but start actually building wealth, which is what we're all trying to do these days, right? It's all in one convenience. So delete that folder you have on your phone with 6 different budgeting apps. All you need is Monarch Money. It's all there. Your finances, your investments, everything that you do financially, it's there in one place. It's never been easier to keep track of all of your finances. So take control with Monarch Money. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, the website, monarchmoney.com, that promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and you're going to get 50% off your first year from our friends at Monarch Money. Welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Texas baseball is in a rut. There is no way around it. The Longhorns have lost 5 of their last 6 SEC games. Texas, of course, has lost back-to-back series after winning their first 7 conference series of the season. The pitching, which 3 weeks ago ranked number 2 in the nation in team ERA, they've come back down to earth. The offense has gone ice cold, just 17 runs for Texas in those last 6 games. Again, 1 win and 5 losses. Horns averaging less than 3 runs per game in this stretch. The strikeout numbers are way too high. I mean, we talked about it last week. Texas struck out 38 times in that sweep at the hands of Arkansas in Fayetteville. We thought that was bad, and you're thinking, all right, this team's coming back home. Florida's not as good as Arkansas. This should be a chance for the Bats to get off the schneid a little bit. About 39 Ks for the Texas Bats this weekend. 13 in the series finale yesterday. Of course, the rubber match with Texas having a chance to win the weekend. 9 of those 13 were looking. So just the plate discipline, the quality of at-bats, it's just not there right now for Texas. And look, I'll call a spade here. The only game that Texas won over the weekend, they got gifted by Mother Nature. Texas was down 2-0. In the 5th inning of that game, Florida's ace, Liam Peterson, was shoving on the mound. There was a 2-hour rain delay. Anytime you get a delay that long, the starting pitcher comes out of the game. So Peterson's day was done. Florida goes to the bullpen, and Texas put up 5 runs off the Florida bullpen in the 6th. Obviously, the Longhorns had to deal with the rain delay too. You don't know what would have happened if the delay didn't happen, but that was kind of a gift because things were not trending well for Texas in that second game of the series. So we might be talking about a sweep this afternoon if Mother Nature didn't step in and hook Texas up a little bit with some May showers. It was ugly, man. And Jim Schlossnagle, after the series finale yesterday, called yesterday's loss the most disappointing loss of the season for Texas. And I agree. You don't want to lose any game, but it was senior day, and Texas, with a win yesterday, would have clinched at least a share of the SEC title. They want to win it outright. Obviously, a win yesterday would have gotten them closer to doing that. But the last home game of the year, the last regular season home game for some key Texas players, all you had to do was win that game, and you get to hoist the trophy in front of your home fans at your home ballpark. And then all you would have needed was just one win against OU in Norman this coming weekend to win the thing outright. Like that, there was so much on the line for Texas, and they just laid an egg. Now, Jason Flores got the start, didn't get out of the third, walking too many guys, hit a couple of guys, but the bats were the problem yesterday. I mean, Texas only gave up 4 runs. They only scored 1. You're not going to win a lot of games in this league, hell, in any league, when you're only scoring 1 run in 9 innings. So I agree with Schloss. I mean, some of the players talked about it after the game, too. There was a pretty fun opportunity right in front of Texas at the dish, and they just couldn't get it done. Of course, you tip your cap to Florida. That's a team playing well. They won 5 straight series. They've locked themselves into an NCAA tournament spot. But with how dominant Texas has been at home all year long, and with how pedestrian Florida's road stats have been this year, kind of felt like that was a series for Texas to win. They've got some issues right now. Here's the good news. I promised it. Here it is. The Longhorns still lead the SEC by 2 games with 3 to go. The magic number before the weekend was 5. It's down to 2. Texas won a game. That removed 1 from the magic number. And then Arkansas dropped 2 of 3 to LSU. Thank you very much, Tigers. We appreciate your help. So even though it was a disappointing weekend for the Horns, they got a lot closer to clinching an SEC title in year 1. So here's the scenario. Kind of alluded to it a moment ago. If Texas wins 1 game against OU, they will clinch at least a share of the SEC regular season title. If they take 2 against Oklahoma, they will win the conference outright, regardless of what happens around them. Arkansas can sweep Tennessee this weekend. That won't be easy, but they can do it. It won't matter if Texas wins the series at OU. The Longhorns will win the SEC by themselves. It's a big if, though, because Oklahoma's a solid team. OU just got swept at Kentucky. They're a solid team. I think Texas is better, but this current version of Texas that we're seeing right now, they could lose a series. They could get swept at Oklahoma. Last time we saw them on the road, they got destroyed by Arkansas. Not only did they get swept, but they lost all 3 games by 5 runs or more. So, look, the other good news, it's baseball. Every team goes through a rut. I wish Texas's rut was in March instead of May. I think we all do. But the Longhorns are in a very enviable position. Every other team in the SEC would trade where they are to be where Texas is right now. 2-game lead going into the final weekend in conference play. The Longhorns are in a great spot, and they've got another week to figure things out. And on top of that, sounds like there's a good chance the preseason All-American and the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year, Max Ballou, is going to return at least at some point this weekend. It's a Thursday to Saturday series. No midweek game for the Horns. They'll play again on Thursday. Hopefully Max Ballou is in the lineup on Thursday, but it does sound like there's a very good chance his bat will be inserted back into this Texas lineup at some point at OU, and they need it right now because, again, this offense struggling, not putting up runs, not getting on base, striking out too much. That is a bad combination of things. What has to change? Well, besides everything, I think Ruger Riojas will probably no longer be the series opening pitcher for Texas. He was great in the game against A&M, but it's back-to-back horrible performances for Riojas. I mean, he got one out on Friday against Florida, gave up 6 runs. I think he walked 3 or 4, gave up a bunch of big hits. He was horrible. And he may have been battling the flu, or there was some sort of bug going on in the Texas locker room, and it sounds like it got Riojas, so maybe he wasn't 100%. But with everything that's on the line, I don't know if you could say, well, hopefully the third time's a charm. The last 2 were horrible. Hopefully he figures it out. I just don't know. Again, Riojas should pitch. He's been great this year, but I think Texas may want to turn to somebody else. Max Grubbs is a guy I would look to. He did pitch a lot in the series finale on Sunday, so obviously that's a quick turnaround if he does get the ball on Thursday this week. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if Schloss makes that move. Because I don't think you want to move Luke Harrison up. I think you want to keep him in day 2. That's been his spot all year. He's been very good there. I don't know what you do on game 3 because Jason Flores has now struggled for 2 starts in a row. But you got to give somebody, you got to get somebody out there that gives you a better chance in the series opener. Those Friday night, this week, Thursday night games are massive. And to be down 6-0 before your team even gets into the batter's box, that was the case for Texas on Friday night. That puts you way behind the 8 ball. And with the way this offense is struggling right now, you could have turned that game off and gone and did something else on Friday night. So that's a change I think we'll see. Again, Max Ballou coming back into the lineup will help. But yeah, Texas has to figure it out, man, because for a long time, and they were the number 1 team in the country, they look like a team that had a really, really good shot to make it to Omaha. Right now, hard to feel confident. But they go out there and take 2 of 3 or sweep Oklahoma. They make a run in the SEC tournament. I think the opinions will shift back to what they were before that Arkansas series. But, man, Texas, unfortunately, has been exposed a little bit. They are missing Jared Spencer. They are missing Max Ballou. Good news is one of those guys is coming back. That pitching staff is going to have to do it without their ace for the rest of the year. All right, we'll take your thoughts. Comment below if you're watching on YouTube, please, and thank you. That's the bad from the weekend, but here's the good. Texas won another SEC title over the weekend. There's a lot of other sports that are just dominating right now, and we're going to give them the love that they deserve. Coming up next, right here on Locked On Longhorns. Final segment here on Locked On Longhorns. Welcome back to the show. Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Another sport, another SEC championship for the University of Texas. Congrats to the Texas rowing team on winning the SEC over the weekend. How about 10 straight conference titles for Texas rowing? The first 9, obviously, in the Big 12. This one in the SEC. This is a sport that Texas has owned in recent years. The Longhorns have won 3 of the last 4 national championships in women's rowing, too. So it's not just conference titles and then they fizzle out in the NCAA tournament. No, Texas has dominated this sport. We'll see if this team can make it 4 in 5 years, but this program continues to get it done. You know what they say in rowing? It just means or. Thank you very much. Hopefully I didn't lose all of you right there. Texas has now won 8 conference championships this year. 7 SEC titles. Texas won a conference championship in beach volleyball, but they're not in the SEC in that. They did win the conference title, but it doesn't count as an SEC championship. Texas has 7 SEC titles. No other SEC team has more than 4. South Carolina is in second place with those 4. You've got 4 schools that have won 0. Mizzou, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. Way to go, y'all. Texas with a nice 3-title lead. 4 championships remaining in this academic year. You've got 2 in baseball, the regular season, which we hope Texas wraps up in the next few days. You've got the conference tournament in baseball. Those do count separately. And then you have men's and women's outdoor track and field. So what a first year for Texas in the Southeastern Conference, the best conference in all of sports. And Texas has more than held its own across the board. Again, they're going to have more conference rings than anybody else. So, yeah, I would say the Longhorns were ready for the SEC. Shout out to the Texas softball team. Disappointing showing in the SEC tournament, but the Longhorns did enough during the year to get a top 8 national seed. Texas is the 6th overall seed in the NCAA softball tournament. The Horns will host the Austin Regional this weekend. UCF, Michigan, and Eastern Illinois, the other three teams there. Eastern Illinois is the 4 seed, so Texas will open up tournament play against EIU on Friday. And Texas will get to host its way to the Women's College World Series. So if the Horns are victorious in the Austin Regional, they will host the winner of the Clemson Regional, Clemson the 11 seed. But man, a lot of SEC flair in college softball. How about 7 of the top 8 national seeds coming from this conference, including the entire top 4? We mentioned that Texas is number 6. Florida State is 5, but the top 4 are all SEC, and then 6, 7, and 8 are all SEC. Insane. 14 teams got into the tournament. There are only 15 SEC squads that play college softball. Vanderbilt doesn't have a team for some reason. Everybody but Mizzou got in. Way to go, Mizzou. Last place in baseball, last place in softball. Well done. Although we should shout out Mizzou for sweeping Texas A&M in baseball. How about that? Mizzou was 0-24 in college baseball SEC play this year. Before this weekend, all they had to do was play the Aggies. No one did they win 1. They won 3 against A&M. Yikes. And a shout out to the Texas men's tennis team. The Longhorns headed to the Elite 8. It's the 5th trip to the Elite 8 in the last 6 years for Bruce Burke and company. Texas swept the fake UT on Saturday here in Austin. The Longhorns moving on. They will take on UCLA on Friday for a spot in the Final Four. So congrats to them. Another great year for Texas men's tennis. The Texas women's tennis team, they saw their season come to an end in the Sweet 16 over the weekend. They lost to Michigan. But another great year for Texas women's tennis, their 5th straight trip to the Sweet 16. Unfortunately, their run has come to an end. We'll see if Texas men's tennis can win another national championship. So a lot to be proud of. Hopefully baseball can wrap up another league title. But Texas, again, in its first year in the best league in the sport, they have proven to the world that they were SEC ready. I don't know if the SEC was Texas ready. I think that's what we're learning here in 2024-25. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. If you've made it this far, please remember to like. Please remember to rate 5 stars. Please subscribe. Please share. And, of course, leave a comment below with your thoughts on today's conversation and ideas for future episodes as well. Thank you so much for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings so you can be the most informed fan on all of the rapid changes going on across the college football landscape. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. More Texas football, Texas baseball, Texas softball. We've got a lot to get into throughout the week. We'll have you covered right here on Locked On Longhorns. Until then, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.